Now we're going to hear from producers James Gay-Rees and the showrunner Kari Lia as well, whose latest show, Breakpoint, dropped on Netflix this morning.
OTB AM.
All right, a brand new Netflix docuseries. It puts the spotlight on tennis this time. Has just dropped, is the official expression, on Netflix this morning. Breakpoint, it's called. Delighted to say a couple of people who are hugely responsible for putting it together. Producer James Gay-Rees and showrunner Kari Lia join us on the line now. Good morning to you both. Thanks a million for jumping on.
Morning. How you doing?
Nice to be here.
Good, thanks. You guys are responsible for this craze that's gripping the world at the minute around lifting the lid, pulling back the curtain from these sports. You were behind Drive to Survive as well.
Yes, yeah, we were. We've been making that show now for 5 years, which is amazing. And I suppose it's just had such a transformative effect on that sport that it's led to lots of other people coming knocking on the door, which is very nice. And so, yeah, when obviously tennis became a possibility, we jumped on it because we're all tennis fans and it's such a fascinating world, which was, we felt that there was a lot of untold story within it that we'd like to shine a light on. And so it proved.
There was no reluctance to, when you've created something so amazing that, like no pressure when you wander into another sport.
It's totally different, honestly. Each sport's obviously massively different. We're doing a few of these at the moment and the experience is different every time. And tennis is literally could not be more diametrically opposed to Formula One. If it tried, it's an individual sport in the truest sense of the word. There are no caddies even, there's nobody in your corner. There's no team surrounding you in the sense of a Formula One team. And, it's just a completely different mental and physical activity with different bandwidth, different profiles. So no, it felt like a totally different exercise. And it's been an absolute hoot actually to get under the skin of it all.
In terms of the starting out point, were you guys like F1 nuts and then that's how you came to that? Because I know obviously you were behind Senna as well, James. Was that the way you came into this or did you reverse into it in some other way?
Well, this or Formula One?
Generally into the genre, I suppose.
No, it was started off with Senna, obviously. And then obviously we made films like Maradona as well. And we've made a few things in the sports space, film about Steven Gerrard called Maker's Dream. And then it was just fortuitous. I was just at an event and bumped into the Red Bull team and then discussed doing a show around Formula One and then, became Drive to Survive. And then, as I said, the phone started ringing. So no, it was just it was like most things in life, it wasn't designed. It was just a sort of a sequence of events.
Harry, what is the challenge of approaching players who have just suffered a humiliation on court? I'm thinking episode 3, Maria Sakkari. Biggest final of her life, Indian Wells, loses to world number 1, Iga Swiatek, but doesn't just lose, is annihilated. She is fuming afterwards, but yet you capture the footage. We're there with her. How difficult was that to approach someone who at that moment is probably so volatile because they're so angry with themselves?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's you put a lot of work, a lot of groundwork well before that time. So we sit down or James and Paul, sit down with people initially to talk to them about filming. But then, you have a long time where you talk about filming and about what story we want to tell of them, what's important for them to get across. And then it's really crucial that we say, listen, we're here, win or lose. We need to be here, whether you win or you lose. And we want to show that. And the chances are at a slam, 128 players come in and 127 lose. So the chances are, we are going to be filming loss at some point, unless it's the big one, right? And so we talk about that. They were very keen that we saw both sides. It was really important to them that they felt like it was time for people to be honest about what was really going on behind the scenes. But I think the most important thing is that the players all knew. We told them the second it gets to be too much and you want us to put the camera down, you look at us, give us a nod, and we put it down. We work together, and there's a layer of trust there that is really, really important. And actually, quite incredibly, I think that happened only one time, and it wasn't even.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did that happen?
Yeah, it happened only one time, and I was there, and I remember it well. And it wasn't a story that we were particularly, was going to be big for us. It's not in the film, but yeah, no, because the trust was so good by that point. So I think everyone knew that we weren't there to embarrass them. We were there to tell their story.
Who was it?
It was Ons Jabeur in the first round. I'll tell you, we were actually doing a practice run because she had just won Madrid and made it to the finals of Rome. And we were doing a practice run with our team to do a slam. A lot of our team was their first slam. And we knew Ons really well. We're very close to Ons and love Ons. And we thought, okay, well, we'll just walk through what it's like to do a first round. And she lost. And it wasn't what anyone was expecting. And she wasn't, and they let us film at the, she was very upset. And then they just looked at us and gave us a nod, and it was like, it's fine. But we weren't there to call her out or anything. And we understood. So it's fine.
I tell you what, James, sorry, Adrian, go ahead.
Go on, Colm, go ahead. No, go
I was going to say, James, like, it's not just entertaining, but you're very brave. Like episode 2, Matteo Berrettini, Alia Tomljanovic, who at the time were a couple. They're no longer a couple, but they were going out at the time. They're both competing at the Australian Open. They have wildly different experiences at the Australian Open, but they're sharing this hotel room. And there's one scene where there's a discussion about their morning plans, let's say. And it's the next morning, it's like, well, I'm going for this interview. And Matteo's saying, well, I'm still in the tournament. I need my sleep. How were you able to get that access, stay there, and yet kind of be that fly in the wall and let them be themselves? In that particular instance, that was fascinating, that scene.
I mean, Kari can speak to this better because she's on the ground a lot more than I was. So,
I think with Matteo and Isla, they're actually incredibly natural people. Like what you see is what you get. Like they're not different when you put the camera down. They are like that normally, and then they're like that when you put the camera down. So I think, the team got lucky because they're very open kind of people, and they, I think, to my mind, that story is really, I find that story really fascinating because everyone always focuses on the top 10 players, but no one ever thinks about the thousands of people that are also trying to come up. And I think that's what was, to me, really interesting about Isla's story is it's as a story about someone who's trying to get in there, but it's really hard, and so hopefully we're able to show that.
Are we mispronouncing your name?
Kari. No, don't worry. Like the county. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Good. You know your audience.
Don't worry.
And I'm going to apologize now because I've done it a few times already, and I'll apologize for doing it again. But I'm going to reference Drive to Survive again. Did you find that having created that beast and the fact that it took over the world and everybody was watching it, that suddenly when you were talking to players, it was a slightly different dynamic in that people understood this is what's involved. So when it comes to losing and the fireworks kick off, we will be there. And so it wasn't like that there was no lack of understanding about what might be involved almost.
No, I don't think so. As you say, listen, a lot of athletes have watched that show because I think it had a certain sort of profile. So, people are pretty smart these days. They know that these things don't happen by themselves, and you've got to be in and amongst it, and you've got to basically, as Kari said, film the good stuff alongside the bad stuff. And I think that I think listen, it's just there's no real magic to this process. People think there is, but there isn't. But you basically just have to earn their trust, and then basically hope that you kind of design the right kind of luck, because you've got to be in the right place at the right time. And you place a number of bets, and then it will come off, right? And so if you're smart, more come off than don't. And then you just kind of you just develop those relationships, and the trust increases all the time. And you'll see in the second half of the series, the relationships get deeper. The access gets better and better and better all the way through, which is always the same way on these shows. And then you start to find that emotional truth in the show, and they know when you're in that space, and when you're in that space, and that's when the kind of like the really good stuff happens. And it's very hard to get there though. And at the end of the day, all these people are professional athletes who actually have to focus on being an athlete, not really being on a TV star. And so it's you're walking a line all the time.
Have they all signed up? Did every player sign up to be involved, or is it, as always, you're trying to navigate around some personalities who just aren't into it?
No, there's hundreds of players, aren't there? So you can't do all of them. So we sat down with the slams and the ATP and the WTA and just got the list out and said who's who, because we don't we're not tennis people. And we had a long list, and then it got shorter and shorter and shorter. Then you start to meet people, and some say, yeah, I'm all in, let's go for it. And then some say, I don't fancy it. It's just inevitable. But if it has, these shows have a way of finding their natural level. You end up engaging with the people that you're meant to engage with, if you see what I mean. You can't force people to do something they don't want to do.
That said, were there names not on the list that you wanted to be on it?
There's always a few, but not in a kind of debilitating way, no.
Yeah. One other one for me, because I know Colm is itching to get in, and this is very much his specialist topic, was the conversation around Nick Kyrgios being episode 1 a fairly brief one?
I can't remember, but yes, it was long and brief, I think.
Yeah, no, I think, it's tricky because we had 3 episodes, the first 3 episodes. Have you seen them all?
I've seen 1.5 episodes. Colm
I've seen
much more inroads than I have, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, because episode 3 is one of our favorite episodes where Taylor Fritz, who no one expected to do well, goes and the end. Well, I don't want to give it away, but he does something fantastic in that episode, and it's very exciting. And so, that's a great episode. Matteo Berrettini is a fantastic, does incredibly well at the Australian Open. So to be honest with you, internally, there was a lot of talk about, we have 3 fantastic potential episodes that could be the first one, and everyone had their favorite, but in the end, it was actually Netflix decision. So.
Really? Okay. Yeah, because Kyrgios has episode 1 to himself, and that's not the case for the following 4. So
yeah,
Netflix felt that strongly about Kyrgios. I mean, for me, Kyrgios works out as about the 7th most famous tennis player in the world. So you have Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, Murray, Serena, and Osaka. And then comes Kyrgios. So was it a case, maybe for you, James, that Kyrgios was the most famous left over, so we had to go first? Or are we just talking about a generational personality?
No. It's purely the strength of the narrative. I mean, obviously, he is, he's a noisy character, so it's a good way to open the show because he is talked about, as you say. But also, he's got he's got a very interesting story, and we picked that up in the second part of the show as well. We go deeper into him and explain, try to get under his skin a little bit and work out what's really going on there. So, no, he was just listening. He gave us great access, and he's a great hook. But they've all got good stories, and like Kari said, honestly, at certain points in time, we were dedicated to another episode. Then it was a different point. There was a different starting point, so it wasn't always designed to be around him.
What really strikes me is it's such a lonely sport. Like, it's such a lonely sport, and I suppose I do glamorize it. I'm such a fan of tennis, and so many people are, that it seems so fantastic. Imagine winning at Wimbledon or the other 3 Grand Slams and getting all this money and fame and fortune. But geez, for the vast majority of players, it's such a grind. And there's a scene with Tomljanovic, and just for mental health, it's so apparent. People know about it with Kyrgios, but with Tomljanovic especially. Who is this documentary for?
I think it was really important to us that we made a documentary that was, going to speak to a vast majority of people, and you didn't have to know anything about tennis to enjoy it. I think hopefully a lot of the stories, especially the one that you're talking about when Tomljanovic, Isla loses, it's about, how it feels. I think everyone knows what it feels like to go out there and try really hard and fail badly, and how difficult and disappointing it is, and embarrassing, and on all of those things. And so we wanted to tell stories that were true to people, no matter what, no matter if you knew about tennis or not. And hopefully the tennis fans will love it. I'm sure they won't like some of the explainers, because we explain, basic things, and we have to do that because the truth is, the majority of people, we wanted to make something that everyone could enjoy, whether you are a tennis fan or not.
I have a theory though as well, that because most people at some point in their life have tried to play tennis and picked up a tennis racket, and like me, failed miserably to be any good at it. But you can sort of relate to somebody putting a forehand into the net. Do you know what I mean? No matter how good you are. So I think actually, very few people are ever going to get into a Formula One car, which is why that show appeals to people in a different way. But I think this show could appeal to a lot of people, because you'll be like, I know that feeling. I know what it's like to hit a double fault. And even though nobody gives a shit when I hit a double fault, and it can be literally a life-changing event when Nick Kyrgios does it in a Wimbledon final, you know how he feels because we've all done it. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's something in that that should really have some traction with people. I mean, that's obviously, I'm hoping that that's the case, but I could believe that could be the case.
Well, one of the more relatable quotes is, I think, from Zachary again, when she's on the bike after Indian Wells final, and she says, in tennis, you have to get used to losing, because you're going to lose more than you win unless you're the big 3. And I was thinking, wow, depending on the kind of day you've just had yourself, it's like, well, that is extremely relatable. Now, look, between us, just between us, who was your favorite player to work with?
We loved them all, didn't we, James?
No. Come on.
I have a soft spot for Isla. I think Isla is just a brilliant character, and she's got a brilliant story the second half of the show as well. So she has an amazing journey and curve. So she was great, and Jensen, she gave us a lot of her time as well. So
I have a soft spot for Isla's dad. I'm just going to be straight up about that.
he's
No,
class,
he's-
honestly.
you'll see what I mean. When you see it.
James, you're involved in the new golf documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was only just thinking about it as we were chatting. I mean, you know, the good fortune / good planning. You know, in one of the most recent Drive Survive series with Abu Dhabi, you have Djokovic and the whole COVID stuff in the tennis, and lo and behold, Live Golf lands onto your plate. You must. I mean, I know there was a lot of hand wringing amongst the tour and stuff, but I mean, that was a gift from the gods.
I know we were panicking though, because we were like, hang on, so basically every player we're featuring is going to live, and this is a show about the PGA. So does that mean that we can't have any of those players in the series? So there were some quite anxious times, but yeah, no, what can I tell you? We're lucky producers. We do seem to be sometimes in the right place at the right time. And listen, we all need a bit of luck, don't we? So, you know.
Yeah, but you have to be there to get the luck.
Yeah.
Are there more, where are the better characters, golf, Formula One or tennis?
Ooh.
Tennis.
They're so different. They're so different, honestly. When you see the golf show as well, that's like a totally different beast altogether as well. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like part of the same. So they're all my children. Love them all. You know, I have a favourite, but I'm not going to say who it is.
We all have favourite kids. That's the way.
I knew you had a favourite, James, by the way you're answering that question. You have to come on again and tell us. After all three,
next time.
That's a promise, is that after all three air, you have to come on and tell us. There's an answer.
We've got another two which are about to hit the script or hit their in production. So, you know, after that, the other two have dropped as well, then we can have a conversation.
Chat. One last one for both of you. What's your favourite fly on the wall documentary of all time, be it sport, non-sport?
Fucking hell, that's a big question. Sorry. Favourite fly of all time.
I'm going to be very boring, and you might not have seen it, but there's a series called Exodus, which was on BBC Two, which is about the Syrian refugees trying to come to the UK.
Wow,
that was pretty amazing. Oh, yeah.
Go on.
Me?
Another moment of inspiration there, Kari, that you were...
you were thinking of another.
No. That one, yeah.
James.
Senna. No, I'm joking.
Senna is a
good show.
It's pretty good.
Honestly, my brain's gone, so I can't give you anything inspired.
When we have you on the next time, like Colm said, we'll definitely come back to that one. As I said, it's dropped on Netflix as of this morning. It's a great show. It's called Breakpoint, and delighted to say that a couple of people who are really responsible for putting it together: showrunner Kari Lia and producer James Gay-Rees. Thanks a million for jumping on.